This is CVE 2017-5753, better known as Spectre Variant 1. Discovered in January 2018, this vulnerability affected almost every modern processor at the time: Intel, AMD, and ARM, the chips powering everything from laptops and smartphones to massive cloud servers, carrying a medium severity CVSS score of 5.6. Spectre wasn't a bug, it was a design flaw, built into CPUs for years. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. It's a little chip on your motherboard that's basically the brain of your computer. Pretty much everything you do will go through your CPU. Spectre was uncovered by researchers from Google Project Zero, Graz University of Technology, and a small group of independent analysts. They named it Spectre because it exploits speculative execution, a feature built into modern CPUs. Not something you could patch and forget. And the name stuck, along with its ghostly logo, because the flaw would linger in processors long after it was discovered. Modern processors rely on a shortcut called speculative execution, where the CPU predicts what it thinks you'll need next and starts working on it to save time. If it guesses wrong, the work is discarded. When a program runs, it's only supposed to access a specific section of memory, its own space. That's called in-bounds memory. Out-of-bounds memory is anything outside that space, something the program was never meant to see. Normally, CPUs enforce strict rules to stop this from happening. But with Spectre, the CPU temporarily ignores these rules while speculating, and that's where the leak happens. Before disclosure, knowledge of Spectre was limited to researchers and CPU manufacturers. Vendors were given advance notice so they could prepare mitigations before public release. Because the flaw existed at the hardware level, it could not be fully patched, only mitigated through software and microcode updates. Once disclosed, exploitation became a matter of time. And here's how it worked. Step 1. Get code running. It starts when a victim runs code, often without realizing it. Visiting a website, opening a tab, or loading a page with malicious content is enough. Modern websites execute JavaScript automatically, and that code runs directly on the CPU. If an attacker controls that code, their instructions are now running on the victim's machine. Step 2. Training the CPU. Attackers can deliberately train the CPU to make the wrong decisions. They do this by running carefully crafted code over and over, teaching the CPU's branch predictor to expect a certain outcome. Over time, the CPU starts to assume that specific memory access is safe. So when the attacker finally triggers it, the processor speculates ahead, accessing data it should never be allowed to touch, like passwords, encryption keys, or private memory. Step 3. Trigger speculation. Once the CPU has been trained, the attacker runs a sequence of instructions, something that looks safe, but causes an out-of-bound memory access during speculation. Because the CPU thinks it knows what happens next, it executes those instructions before security checks were applied. Step 4. Leave traces in cache. Even though the CPU throws away the result, leaves something behind. Data touching during speculation is pulled into cache, and cache is faster memory, which is closer to the processor, and that tiny difference in access time is exactly what attackers measure next. Step 5. Measure timing. The attacker then measures how long different memory locations take to respond. Data pulled into the cache during speculation responds faster. A side channel is an unintended signal, not the data itself, but a side effect that leaks information. In Spectre, that signal is timing. Step 6. Reconstruct the secret. By repeating this process thousands, sometimes millions of times, the attacker can slowly piece together data that was never meant to be accessible. The attacker can tell what the CPU accessed, and reconstruct that data bit by bit over time. Spectre was never widely used in real-world cybercrime. The attack required very precise conditions, deep technical knowledge, and careful timing, making it far more suitable for researchers than for mass exploitation. Where the real concern emerged was in shared environments, especially cloud infrastructure. In theory, an attacker could run code on a virtual machine and use Spectre to infer data belonging to other customers running on the same physical CPU. Cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud treated Spectre as a critical threat, rolling out emergency mitigations across their platforms. Researchers quickly released proof of concepts showing how Spectre could leak passwords, cryptographic keys, and sensitive memory contents, and no major malware campaigns were built around it. Spectre became infamous because modern CPUs were designed for speed over security. When Spectre was disclosed, it came alongside another CPU flaw called Meltdown. The two were announced together, so they were often grouped in headlines, even though they worked very differently. Meltdown was easier to exploit and hit Intel CPUs hardest. Spectre, on the other hand, was more subtle. Patches for Spectre started rolling out just days after its discovery. The flaw exploited specific out-of-bounds memory checks, so it couldn't be fixed with one universal patch. Instead, compilers and developers had to insert additional bound checks and memory fence instructions, which are commands that tell the CPU to not speculate past this point. These mitigations made attacks much harder, but came with performance trade-offs and required widespread software updates over time. Even with mitigations in place, Spectre remained a lingering threat. True elimination required new hardware, but there were reports that servers randomly started rebooting and slowing down systems, and the panic began, until they realised it was caused by Spectre and Meltdown patch rollouts. Spectre was a wake-up call for the entire security industry that even the most fundamental parts of modern computing, the CPU architecture, weren't immune to exploitation. Before Spectre, most security research focused on software flaws. After Spectre, hardware vulnerabilities became a new priority for researchers and vendors alike. Spectre also changed industry practices. Chip makers now work much more closely with security researchers, and speculative execution features are scrutinized far more carefully. It was a turning point that reshaped how hardware security is handled. Spectre proved that even the core design of our CPUs can't always be trusted, and that sometimes speed really does come at a cost. And that was CVE 2017-5753, one for the archives. And if you enjoyed this, we have new CVE breakdowns every other week. Also, longer exploit stories you can fall asleep to. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. I'll see you in the next one.